Basically, Gin Greymane, whose name was already Greymane before he was a Worgen, funnily enough, was told to join the Alliance and fight the Horde, and he said no. So he decided to build a gigantic wall instead of fighting the Horde, and this was before 2016, so nobody thought it was funny yet. Then for about 20 years, nobody was allowed inside or outside of Gilneas. And then eventually the undead scourge started attacking, and Gen Gilneas was like, oh crap, we actually don't have any kind of defense against this. You, go and make me an enormous army of wolves or something. And then Aragyle, who was standing in the same room at the time, said, yeah, okay, I can do that. So then he used a magic stick to summon a bunch of dogs. And then the dogs attacked all the undead, and then the dogs attacked all the humans, and everyone was really, really sad. And also dead. So for the next few years, Gilneas was basically filled with monsters. Nobody knew where anything was, everyone was disappearing, and everything felt like it was haunted, which it probably was, because it's also full of witches. Little by little, entire parts of the uncivilized regions of the kingdom were filled with Worgen. And then they started getting into the cities, and that's when things got really, really bad. It was like a plague, except with wolves instead of dead people. Then the remaining humans opened up a civil war against Gens and Gansen, because as it turns out, most people don't want to be stuck behind a wall for their entire lives in a rainy, miserable place filled with only sheep and dogs. And a bunch of stuff happened outside the wall, but Grabs and Gulson didn't really care. And then everything was going really bad with the Worgen until Deathwing happened and flooded the entire kingdom. And then someone found a way to make the Worgen keep their human intelligence, which was useful. And then the undead attacked again, except it wasn't the old undead, this time it was Sylvanas' undead, which are like the normal undead except they had brains. And then Sylvanas was like,
the wolves are mine.
And Gen was like, and then Sylvanas killed his son. So Jindy Findy Hindy Pindy attacked Sylvanas, and then a bunch of Night Elves came along and said, hey, we can make you turn into humans again, except not permanently. And everyone else was like, well, that's not much use then, is it? Except it was more like, well, that's not much use then, is it? Because they all speak in really weird accents. Anyway, then Gabson, Goopson, Hiddly Hoodly 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 Hoodlyson came back and said, yes, actually, I'd like to be a human Worgen again, please. And then he went to attack Sylvanas again. And then War Chief Garrosh joined the fight, and he added all of his forces with the entire horde, and he said to Sylvanas,
I seriously hope you do not plan to use the plague.
And she was like, deploy the plague! Then they bombed the entire kingdom, literally the entire kingdom, non-stop for about 3 days, rendering the entire place completely uninhabitable. Except by undead, and Worgen, who are immune to the plague. Anyway, Grab Pop Banana Breath was like, yeah, actually our kingdom's been completely destroyed, we're just gonna leave and join the Alliance. And then they did, and then they didn't do anything at all for the next 6 years. And then they did do something when they decided that Gone with the Wind had to be a character again. So when King Varian Rin died, Gumpson became the main leading force of the Alliance's army. Partly because he's so old, and partly because King Anduin didn't have a clue. So then Mel Gibson went to fight Sylvanas again, and she was like,
Old wolf.
and he was like, vengeance! And then he stopped more of her evil plans, and then he did nothing for the next year except say nice things to Anduin. And then he got hit by lightning.